You are staring at a Moonikin. A Moonikin is a mannequin that goes around the moon in the Artemis 1 spacecraft. This Moonikin is named Commander Moonikin Campos and was named by the public earlier this year. And the point of this is that if there is a mannequin that is set up in an actual flight suit and pretty much strapped in like a person would over in Artemis 1, then why don't I remote view into it? Sounds like a good target. And that's what we're here to do today. So, first off, the most important part, in my opinion, is that we have a live video feed into Artemis 1, or rather, at Artemis 1, as you'll see. It's, let me give you a better view here. This is Artemis 1. We've got a camera on it right now, so we can see out there. We can see into space, and we can go to space. In fact, you can actually see, because I've got the TV frame as a reference, more easily, that this is moving a bit. This is an actual live feed and not just a still image, which I find completely fascinating. So we're staring into live space right now. This means that remote viewing would be a lot easier to do because you've got a guide to project to. I've never done this before, and I'm recording it live as I do it so that you can get my impressions while I do it. So without further ado, let's get started. So my methods for doing this, I'm just kind of gonna talk you through them. I'm gonna stare at that central rocket spout right there in the middle of the part of Artemis 1 that we're looking at. And I am just kind of focusing on that, focusing on the circle oval there, and just really staring into it and really focusing on it. Focusing on the fact that it's not just a flat image, it's actually 3D. It's a pronounced shape, and I'm getting more of the sense of actually being in space and looking at it from space and not just looking at it here now. Kind of a double vision. And now I'm imagining myself going into there, since it's a 3D cylinder, I'm going into that shape, and then I'm passing into Artemis 1 itself. And this is very interesting feeling, because the feeling of passing into Artemis 1, there's like a lot of technology in here. Oh my gosh. It's different than just like walking through a building or something. There's all these panels. Anytime you walk in through a panel or past a panel, it's just like feeling like little tendrils of lightning going through your body. It's because of all of the indicators, actually, that there's so much. There's less actual power going through it than you would expect. Now, it feels very secure. I don't have the feeling of, like, inside the capsule, inside Artemis 1, I don't have the feeling of being in space while I'm in it. I just feel like I'm in a room, or I'm in a very, like a lab or a hospital or something. Everything's very sterile, very clean. There's a lot of technology, and it's actually, the technology part feels overwhelming, because everything that I look at, I just get the sense that I would, I immediately can feel the need to read the manual that explains what the heck to do. Sorry, my cat's trying to join me, and that's not going to work. So, interrupted. And that's how live tests work. You just deal with it. I actually haven't settled into Moonikin Campos yet, and I'm feeling the sense of a chair there, like this go sit in the chair feeling. So I'm going to go ahead and get into Moonikin Campos. And yeah, I feel like I'm sitting down in a nice chair. Um, I actually went to space camp and did a space shuttle mission whenever I was at space camp as a kid. So I've sat in the commander's chair for a space shuttle. Since that was, I did a space shuttle mission at space camp. This was back in the 90s. They were still running space shuttles. So it's actually, instead of being like a space shuttle seat, it's a lot more similar to being in one of those devices that they set up to make you feel like 3Gs, or to like have you get the sensation of tumbling through space and regaining your orientation. Um, it's everything's very solid. Now there's like a lot of stuff in there where it seems like the paint isn't on all the way. Like the everything's ready, but like sometimes there's what I would call not actual painter's tape there, but it's like the same thing as like the painter's tape still being left on a construction project after it's done. Um, it's I think the reason there's a few things that they haven't really tucked into place. There's a lot of wires around, and I think the wires would be more tied down or put behind a panel or something instead. But since this is basically they're doing a run to test this through space, I think that's why it's like this. They wouldn't put a person in this yet, but they've already got plenty of time to work on the one that will actually be crewed, and or rather work on modifying this to be crewed. And also they're getting all the data. So getting a real big sense of motion all of a sudden. Wow. Oh, okay. I'm out of Artemis 1 and just watching Artemis 1 move through space. I'm not really sure what punted me out, but it's I can kind of follow along. I can home behind it, but it's easier to be outside of Artemis 1 than inside. And maybe it's just a data signal that's in there. Maybe they're going through some sort of technical operation in there that's making it hard for someone to remote view in. For all I know, they watch it astrally, and they're keeping people from being in there. But like I really just get the sense it's a technical thing. For all I know, there's like a cosmic ray that's interfering. It kind of just reminds me of following a big Mack truck on the highway. Just keep your distance, and it's pretty much gonna keep all the other traffic out of your way. Let's see. I've got the sense of the moon, but it's really hard to look at it. I think because I want to keep on looking at Artemis 1. I want to keep my attention on Artemis 1. If I split my attention to the moon, I'll lose Artemis 1. And I can feel Earth, but if I try to feel it too much, I'm probably going to come back to my body, so I don't want to do that. It's really interesting getting the perspective, actually, of Earth visible from Artemis, from like behind Artemis 1, like that perspective, like me, then Artemis 1, then Earth. And it's it is nice and quiet out in space. I know that Elton John says it's lonely out in space, but maybe it's just quiet. It is nice to be somewhere that isn't so cluttered mentally. And I do wonder if I could just go take a break out in space every now and then. Like maybe if everything's just overwhelming, I'll go take a break in space and let it be quiet. So that's a nice takeaway. I was wondering what the experience of space was going to be like. Also, I'd like to say that space itself, I'm not focusing on it right now. I'm just being in it. I feel like if I focused on space, I would get completely overwhelmed. But if I just focus on being there, and I focus on Artemis 1, and I just keep things in perspective, there's nothing to be overwhelmed about. Because I was always in space to begin with. Nothing's actually changed about that whatsoever. I'm in space right now physically, and I'm in space right now astrally. It's just one of me is on planet side. I'm going to start to reel myself back in. I didn't want to spend too much time in this first foray. Starting to take a look at the stars and yeah, getting lost. So back at Artemis 1, looking at Earth, thinking about my body on Earth, and just pulling back to my body. It's like feeling myself get closer to myself, but in two directions at once. Still kind of getting there. Letting go of Artemis. I'm going to go ahead and close the feed in the browser, which I think will help. And then just switching back to camera. And I'm back. Oh, wow. Okay, space is cool. Highly suggest it. Pace yourself in space. And yeah, that was remote viewing to Artemis 1. If you wanted to go out to a space object or space location, really suggest a live feed. There's something about that really, I think, helped. For one, it'll be harder to get scattered in along the time axis. But yeah, I'm gonna close off this video. If you like this, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. And yeah, maybe I'll do some remote viewing again sometime, and you can see what happens with that later.